Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order here at 7 o'clock. I want to welcome everyone, both in the room here out there and as well as fellow board members. And hard to believe we're already, past midway through January. Good to see everybody. Everybody's looking well. Let's begin tonight, as we always do, with prayer for guidance. John?
Certainly. Thank you, Jim. We bow our heads, please. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to serve, and we just pray for your wisdom and your guidance, Lord. Please guide us tonight. And we thank you for this opportunity, as we said, that for Georgetown Township and the wonderful people that work here. We pray for our first responders, particularly during the wintertime when it's very, very difficult. Please be with them and keep them safe. And please be with our citizens as they go about their jobs. And help us all, dear Lord. We pray for your guidance. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and our roll call at this time, it would appear that everyone is present this evening. Normally, for those who are here observing tonight, I think most of you have come before, but if not, we would have the agenda up on the screen there, and of course you can access it on your phone even as you sit here. So if you need to do that tonight, perhaps that is what you'll have to avail yourself of. But we just had a projector that we've had for probably 8 years that went out, and I expect by the next time we have a meeting, probably have another one. So, all right, I thought somewhat modest agenda after not having met for a period of time. So is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Support. Support. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, our agenda is approved. Item number 6, communication letters and reports received for information. Important information, and board members do appreciate that and go through that carefully, I trust. Item number 7 then, immediately here, we're into public comment for action items remaining on the agenda. You may not know what those items are if you don't have your phone and the agenda pulled up, but I suspect if you came for something tonight, you probably already knew it was on the agenda. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on any item of tonight's agenda? I see at least one hand. The subject you've spoken on previously? Not on our formal agenda tonight, so you're welcome to address it then in the second public comment period. Brad, I always like to know if you're coming because we'd make you an agenda item. I hate to, if you've got other meetings to keep you, but I think maybe because you may have other things, would you like to address us now? Is the board willing to allow them to kind of jump line there? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
If you would, please. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for letting me address the board. And obviously, Amy and I had a first chance to meet today. Haven't been here since all of that excitement happened. I've had a chance to spend a little time in Lansing now since the changeover from being in majority to being in minority.
What do you think?
From what I saw before and experienced and thought I had a clue about the pain of what that meant to be in minority versus majority, I found out I didn't even appreciate it maybe well enough. Because really you have no opportunity to help set the agenda at all. So everything that happens only by the will of the majority. And though I knew it, the experience wasn't there to feel it up until this time.
Do you feel like Mr. Irrelevant? Is that?
Yes, actually, that's true.
Is it being handled the same way that you recall the majority Republican doing? Is it just the reality of whoever's in the majority, or do you feel like it's being handled differently?
It is somewhat the same, but it's different in that I think we were more willing. The Republicans were more willing just to speak into and let you at least know in advance what was coming. There's a supplemental bill that's being run this week that I heard about today I couldn't even tell you, but it's in the $300 million of extra money that's going to be spent. I got wind of it today. I haven't seen the actual bill, don't really know what's going to be run. It's coming from the Senate, and we're going to get it, I think, tomorrow. So, and
you got to pass it to find out what's in it.
Yes.
All right.
It will be one of those kind that you have to pass it to find out what's in it. We may actually have a chance to see it before then, but not likely, or at least not in its full capacity. Anyway, so experience is a way different experience right at the moment. Still, the process, the way that you can actually make something happen when you're in minority is to be able to figure out how to build relationships, because there are relationships to be had. There are opportunities to flavor or at least change what goes on if you're willing to be involved with people and get to know people. So that's really my goal. There's a bunch of other tax stuff that's coming up. I don't know if you've seen it, been paying attention, but there's a potential rollback on our income tax from 4.25 to 4.05%, just based on, and that number could change based on how much overage there is in revenue versus 2021's tax year revenues that came in. So we'll see what that does. So we're expecting some of that. And I've got several bills that I put in that I'm anticipating we'll see some action on. So if there's any questions or things that you'd like to know about, I'd be happy to do that here or anytime. Let me know.
Okay. Will do.
The budget surplus, is that where that $300 million is coming from?
Yeah, I think they're intending to use on the balance sheet, there's about $9 billion, and so I think they're intending to use a bunch of that as a way and start using up all of it probably if they can. So
the Republican majority gives you a $9 billion increase, and the Democrats take credit for it and spend it.
Elections have consequences.
There you go.
There you go. That's explained in a nutshell.
Yep.
You're always welcome.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 8, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Move. Support.
Moved and supported. Any comments or questions about that? All right. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it has passed. Item number 9, Georgetown Township. Here we've got a proposed secondary and subdivision resurfacing 2023. This comes up this time, of course, every year, sometimes earlier. And there's been a lot of discussion about it, as this board will remember, in particular, I'd say the last 2 years, because we've increased the budget and we've also modified somewhat the methodology for choosing these streets. And I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but last year we more or less set a list that would make this year easier to say, okay, what's next on the list and how far down can we go? But I'm sure if I don't remember that entirely correctly, one of you will enlighten me here.
Yeah.
So, board, the floor is open, yeah? Is that what you recall?
Yeah. Our goal is to try to cover areas instead of leaving a small little piece of street loose. So this year we built it up. Last year our $4 million did 16 miles worth of road. This year they only do 12 miles worth of road. So that shows where the difference in where our money's going this year. Money's not going as far because TAR's much more. But I'm still pretty pleased we're catching up pretty well quickly on our road system in Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Rod can attest we don't get near as many complaints either the last couple of years because our roads are starting to get. And we did hit the trifecta because Ottawa County's done a lot of our trio roads. Now this year they're going to do 20th Avenue, which is a complaint, but that's Ottawa County, so that'll get done along with some of the other ones that really makes us look like we're doing what actually Ottawa County's doing those. So Bauer and
And all the school traffic.
Yep.
School
Yep.
traffic, yeah.
Amy, you ran recently. Did you hear much from voters when you were running about roads, good, bad, or indifferent?
No.
No?
Nope. I didn't hear
Here.
anything.
Okay.
No, other than one resident that runs all the time that likes to keep the streets swept, on the sides of the road.
Okay. All right.
So other than that, no, I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything.
Other board members? You get much feedback one way or the other?
Yeah, I've had a couple complaints about hunters, and I didn't see that on the list.
Hunter's Drive or Avenue?
Yep, that's in Haggard Park West. And we did, in the past couple of years, we've done some roads in it, and our new policy was when we're hitting subdivisions to be consistent and hit all roads because they're usually pretty close to the same age. And that was one that Hunter's didn't get hit last time, and now I see it's not getting hit this time, but Mid Park and Park North are being, and I don't even see that one way down the list. I'm not sure how far down the list it is.
Yeah, either.
And Hunter's is a pretty old one. I want to say it was 2004.
A question to you, and as far as Hunter's is concerned, I'm not familiar with that street, honestly, but is that in a grouping of streets that is among those projected for this next year, or are you saying it should have been last year and wasn't?
Yeah, it's in there with Mid Park and Park North.
And Briar's on there.
Yep, Briar's another one in there.
I know the biggest complaint I get is 40th Avenue, and that's really Hudsonville, city of Hudsonville, between Chicago Drive and Van Buren there behind the fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the biggest complaint I get on the road. That's really the city of Hudsonville. And I know Rod has talked to City of Hudsonville. We're waiting for the new city manager to come. Hopefully we can address it with him when he starts. What did you say, February, March, something like that? February. Yep, so.
Jim, I've noticed that Parsons between 14th and 8th Avenue.
Yep, tried that.
It's just one of the worst sections I've driven.
Would you like it flattened out?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Make that happen?
I kind of assumed that, I know development is taking place in that area, so I don't know if there was a little pause waiting for the development or what, but the road is in terrible, terrible shape.
I'm not sure, John, but next year we'll be doing 14th Avenue.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if Parsons is could be done at the same time. Because if I remember right, 14th I was going to get widened, and we're going to put a bike path on both sides, and the county's going to be taking care. We're going to partner with the county to do that.
Right.
So then Parsons could be done at the same time,
I think that'd be great.
and we cover both same time.
That's a note that we could lose track of between now and then. So maybe someone could just jot a note to that effect when we're doing next year is to consider that.
That would be great.
Well, it's been on our radar for a year and a half already, so we'll make sure to keep that under, because 14th is going to be kind of a big project when we get going on that next year.
Sure.
The one that I wanted to ask about the ones that I wanted to ask about are the ones that are on the last page. It's page 49 in the packet that are the roads without sanitary sewer. Looking at a couple of those that haven't been resurfaced since the 90s, but they don't have sanitary sewer, so of course resurfacing those it's a bigger deal. But I'm just wondering if there's been conversation about those looking at Pleasantwood Drive, Crestview Avenue, and Englehurst Court specifically.
And Rosewood.
Yeah, that one's newer, but it is rated even worse than those other three. So I just didn't know if utilities has had conversations about those. I did have a resident reach out to me specifically about one of those that doesn't have sanitary sewer, and that they feel like their road is in poor condition, but almost are reluctant to push much for it because of the costs that will come if sanitary sewer is then put in, the cost to their family, so, or could potentially come. So I would love an update on that from anybody in utilities, or if there's conversations about that behind the scenes so that I can respond to that resident who reached out to me.
Would you like that right now, or you mean after the meeting? Or
Whenever.
Okay. Does anyone have specific knowledge?
I think that'd be good to put on the...
Roads that don't have sanitary sewer.
We did. I don't believe there's any roads on it that doesn't have sewer on them that we're repaving.
We're not, but there's ones that haven't been resurfaced since the mid-1990s that are in poor condition that just have kind of made it to the end of the list under the heading roads without sanitary sewer. So I just wondered if we were considering those or if we were just letting them get really bad, like where we were at with that.
I was under the impression that was the direction the board has always had, that we don't repave roads that don't have water and sewer, but.
Until we, at the same time, maybe install water and sewer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's.
I think on utilities we should take a look at that, because that has been the comments that were made years ago with, okay, as these roads get to the point where they need to be repaved, it may be time for the people to hook up. And what we have done in the past is maybe help them with some type of loan system. We did that when we had about 450 that we had hook up. So I would recommend that to be on the agenda for the utilities committee and we discuss it.
Mm-hmm. I think if we look at the list past the ones highlighted green, just doing a quick scan, it doesn't look like there's anything in the 90s like past the green. There's a handful in the green. But we're repaving stuff that was new construction in 2003, and then we've got roads that were last repaved in 1992 that we've just been holding off on. So the particular resident that I was in touch with, her concern was that when this comes about, there should just be enough publicity about it that the people that live on those roads have an opportunity for input. So what she was asking me was, when our road comes up, will you please let me know? Because she wants the opportunity to give input on, the impact that that's going to have on their family's budget and those sorts of things if they're required to connect to sanitary sewer, at least the opportunity to have her voice heard. So I can forward that along to maybe John, since you're on utilities, or whatever, but I encourage utilities to take up that topic because it seems like some disparity to just have 1990s roads just sitting.
Mm-hmm. It's both, it's both a blessing and a curse, I suppose,
yep.
right? Yeah. Yeah, that they're being overlooked is somewhat bad, but at the same time, they fear maybe what being paid attention to might mean.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the people I've talked to on Greenwoods and Pleasantwood, they don't care how bad the road gets.
They don't want to spend the money.
Nope, they don't want to hook up. And logistically, I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. So Hunters, did we find that? That's not on the list at all?
Not on the list. Let me know if you wanted to know about it.
Because that one just makes sense. Did you guys look at a map in Park North to make sure we're staying consistent with hitting streets next to it, so we don't
did
have
as much as we could, yeah.
cold joints?
If you do Hunters, you got to do probably hunting court as well. That's another one of those out there.
Because I think, if I remember right, and I'm not good with street names, which is terrible because I live over there. But they came through last year and did roads, and I believe the year before too.
While they're looking, Michael, in the next grouping, the unshaded portion, do you also see streets there that are somewhat adjacent or in that same neighborhood for this next year?
I'm not seeing any, but we have too many roads.
Well, they're not all on there. If they weren't, these are only roads that need to be done. I'm not sure every road in the township is listed in here.
The only roads that
I'm glad you caught that.
considered 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Oh, I looked at the master list. This was when I had a complaint probably 4 months ago. I'm like, what? I don't remember seeing Hunters. And I know it's in terrible shape. And I believe that one was rated like a 3 or a 4. It was bad. It was on a mass.
Hunters was last time. There's a section of 2000 and a couple of spots that were done in 2012.
Yeah, and I think that was the one. And if you drive down it, it's in terrible shape.
Okay.
I'm not sure why they're not on this list.
Well, that might be a reasonable ad, you know?
Mhm.
You know, just an oversight or a omission.
So, one of the things we discussed in utilities is we come with a proposal to spend $3.2 million, and this list keeps getting later every year because the county is behind on enough personnel. So last year we sent in the list of roads, $3.2 million. They bid it, and it came in at $2.9. So the utilities committee would, if we turn this in and it comes in at $2.9, we'd like to be able to approve up to $3.2.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to give Rod that permission so that we can continue on. Because last year, because we got ahead of the game, our roads got done quicker. We were done by August. The year before, we got late, and they were still doing those things in November. And I don't think we get the quality roads when they do them that late in the year. Car's cold. I think last year we got a better product. We got better roads, and it was timed well.
Yeah.
They were on top of it last year. And so, from utility standpoint, I think I'd like to see us spend the $3.25 million.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to spend that amount of money. This is the proposed. This is an estimate. This is not the bid.
Mm-hmm.
If the bid comes in, then we would take that access up to $3.25 million and be able to repair more roads up to that amount of money.
When are they starting to repair? What month do they usually typically do it?
Whenever.
It depends on where it comes in, you know.
Yeah.
Last year Reese Riley got them all, and they were right on top of things. That was quite impressive last year. It was crazy. They were boom, boom, boom. You could see them moving through the township.
Okay.
So, but the earlier they get the bids in, the earlier they get started, the earlier they get moving on it. They stage things and they get it done.
Yep.
So, that's.
So I'd like to move ahead as well, Gary, for that reason. And if the expectation is there will be some overage in our estimate,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like a road like Hunter's, if it were a 3-4 condition in that portion that hasn't been done for 22 years,
Yep.
probably
And
we're in that area.
I have no problem looking at that, and Rod and I can look at that, or the utilities can look at that.
Okay.
We'd like to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we don't overspend our budget. But this is the list we're bringing right now. It's that 3.2 estimate.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see where the bid comes in, and then we'll go from there.
I'd say for sure add it on there.
Yep.
It can't be that much more. I'm looking, what is our roads budget? I thought it was 3.5.
The road's budget is $4 million.
Oh, so I'd say add it.
But we have to reserve some of that for other things that come out of the budget of that too. So
So we got 800,000 that's going to be spent on something other.
Rod, what was the other part of that budget that came to? Is it parks?
Pathways.
Yeah.
General path.
Sidewalks.
Yep. All right. Well, it seems likely that there will be some margin there to add a couple more deserving roads to get in the queue, so to speak. Why don't we proceed? And it seems that Hunters would be on whatever additions there might be that are made. Are you satisfied with that?
What does it list Hunter's links as?
It's in 5 pieces. The 2019 estimate for dollars was about $140,000 if you want to do all of Hunters. From 28th to Briar Lane was done in 2012. That's $43,000 for that section.
And then found that the 100 and change was for redoing the 2012 parts and the 2000?
Yeah.
We had a reason for breaking, I presume, just in terms of we don't always go in and do the entire length of a street.
Right.
So if it were to only cover the portions that are bad from all the way back to 2000, we'd be looking at considerably less?
About $100,000.
Not considerably less, but less, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That'd be one of
I'm
those.
for giving them the flexibility to look at those situations.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like, could we look at the list and make sure there's no other streets like Hunters that we're missing?
I think he's speaking to probably the utilities at this point. Go ahead, Ron.
So we work from the list that the road commission gives us as the worst rated roads in the township. If you want to do this another way,
No, you just said Hunters was at 3?
and then I said I can't explain why it wasn't on the list.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are there others that it might have fallen through? I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, can we just do it a once over, make sure we're not missing any of that? We're like, oh, how did that one not get put on the list?
The road commission would like to have this in by February 10th. So if you want us to do that, we won't miss that because our next board meeting is February 13th. So it depends on where you want the work to go.
It sounds like at least from some of the voices, that we'd like to proceed with what we have.
Sure.
But with a very open attitude toward what you're suggesting, either with this road or if there were another that were inadvertently omitted, could be an additional add, you know?
And I think historically, they always come in under what the estimate is.
Sure.
So I'm hoping, but I look at that as Hunters being more important that get resurfaced than sidewalk or path that doesn't connect anything yet, but will in 10 years.
So should we look to add Hunters, and
Excuse me?
should we look to just add Hunters now? I mean, I agree with Mike. We'll have the cushion,
Yeah.
and we know it's a 3, and we need to get this in. So I would propose we add that to the list. We'll take another look, see if things have been missed, if that's an easy look. But
And historically too, like last year we had a $3 million surplus, so we've got the money. So I look at it as we're checking off the list. It needs to happen. I feel comfortable. In fact, I would make the motion to add Hunters to this list.
Well, I don't think that we've even made a motion to approve the list, right? Has that motion happened and I just missed it?
Oh, we shouldn't be
If it
discussing
did,
that.
it happened through you, so.
I don't think that it's happened yet, and so I don't think we need a motion specifically about Hunters. I think that we need to make a motion, I will make a motion to approve the proposed secondary and subdivision road resurfacing for the 2023 as recommended by Utilities Committee, given that it is the list that we have been presented and additional roads, including Hunters, at our superintendent's discretion.
Support.
Okay.
Just wanted to get the ball rolling.
I appreciate that, and I think that probably is going to generate the votes. Quick question, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, Michael, but we don't have any relatives that live on Hunters, right? Because it just kind of came
Not that I'm aware
All
of.
right.
But I drive it literally daily.
All right.
It's an artery to so much of Georgetown Township that it's really unbelievable
Well,
that any of us wouldn't.
There's been a motion to approve the list here with the addition of Hunters. And of course, there's, ability down the road, sorry, no pun intended, to look at where the numbers come in.
Does anybody live on these streets that are getting resurfaced or have relatives, friends?
I don't even know where that road is, so.
Know any of the roads on the list?
Oh, that I don't know.
I have friends that live off of Hunters. I drive Hunters on the regular to get to friends' houses.
I think you should abstain there for Becky.
Made the motion, so.
Any other comments? We've now got a motion before you, supported by John as well as Amy, with the addition of Hunters on there. You guys ready to vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's passed. Okay. Item number.
Sir, I'd like to make another motion.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that if we can spend up to 3.25 million, should the bids come in less than what they are, at the superintendent's discretion.
Support.
Do you want superintendent or do you want utilities? At superintendent discretion or do you want utilities?
We can go utilities too, I don't care, but just so that we can keep moving on this thing.
Sure.
I'd say
Giving it
utilities.
to Rob keeps it moving because we don't have to wait for an agenda for utilities.
I'm okay with their discretion.
What's that?
I'm okay with their discretion on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my motion. Okay.
I'd just like it reported
Feel
to
full of
utilities.
John.
Yeah.
Good.
Just report it to utilities. He'll come back to us anyway.
And then maybe overlay too, so map-wise, so we're making sure we are hitting the full neighborhoods. Did you guys do a map and then take a highlighter and draw them? I'm not sure what the easiest way to do this is. I would imagine you take a map and you'd put a highlighter and you say, are there any streets we're missing? I didn't go. I think you just had. It was 8 o'clock. I thought it was 8 at night, so I missed the utilities meeting to see what the process was going to be. But I would just ask that we look at a map and just with these streets, mark them out, see if there's any that are missing. With excess funds, then we look at the roads that will complete that neighborhood.
That's a recommendation to utilities to think about that particular approach. Makes sense. But in the meantime, we've got Gary's motion. Any further comment on that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion.
Have a support.
Yeah, I supported it.
Good. Just want to make sure.
All right. Yep. Appreciate it. Next is the possible increase in the per diem for meetings for both the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. Been at is it 80 right now? I think 85. We're going to 85. You're going to 100 with this. So is there a motion to approve of that increase, that per diem increase?
I would make a motion to approve revised policy number 2018-01, Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals compensation policy to change the per diem amount to $100 as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Support.
All right. Been moved and supported. It's frankly, in my humble opinion, still not enough, but I think it's fair. It's in the realm of fair. I think it needed to increase.
So we got some phenomenal people on. Is this thing even on? Hello? Phenomenal people on Zoning Board of Appeal, myself excluded, and the Planning Commission. And these people spend hours preparing for meetings, and literally plot layouts spread across their kitchen tables for days preparing. Gary, you know that. You probably do the same thing. And $85, just even 100 is not quite enough, but it's something. We're moving in the right direction.
Yep, agreed. Any other comments?
Because I'm on the Planning Commission, I'll abstain from voting.
Okay. You want to withdraw your motion and let someone else make it?
No, I'm confident. I already said when in finance, I'd like to exclude myself. I'll stick with 85. I have no problem. But apparently it's too difficult to do.
Right.
I don't think it's
right
difficult.
to increase. All right. Well, so I'm going to call for the vote at this time. All in favor of increasing that per diem to $100 per meeting, say aye.
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 Any opposed? For what it's worth, just as an aside, I get asked from time to time by other supervisors about what we pay for this and that, and they'll do a mass email to all of us as supervisors, and we'll chime in. And we are, you don't want to be the low end, but we're certainly never the high end. So I feel like we measure fair across that board. Item number 11. Introduction and first reading of ordinance number 2023-02, Michigan Vehicle Code and Uniform Traffic Code, something that comes before us. It could literally, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Rod or Rob, could come up more often, but we tend to bring it up every several years and have it reaffirmed.
It could come up every month.
Yeah.
It's such a fluid document of rules. It could come up every month.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the time I've been on the board, I think I probably voted on this at least 3 times in the past. But essentially, adopting the Michigan Vehicle Code and adopting the Uniform Traffic Code, sort of readapting, if you will, because there's changes that have been made along the way, allows people like our sergeant there to, to operate, essentially to operate and enforce the law, because without our adherence and adoption, we're out of, essentially out of, power to do so. So it's sort of perfunctory in a sense.
Jim, last time is 1 of 18.
What's that?
Last time adopted was January of 2018.
So, is there a motion someone wish to place before the board?
Move to adopt the Michigan Vehicle Code.
And supported?
Support.
Okay. Any comments about it? I know it feels a little bit I suppose it could feel a little bit like a lot of things that we do when we approve of a state decision about X or Y. It can feel, it seems right here, obviously it seems somewhat of a straightforward reaffirmation, but you could honestly say to yourself, well, I didn't have any hand in that writing or in those changes. No, it's true. There's a lot of things we don't have a hand in that we're expected more or less to follow and adhere to, and this is one of them. So those who do have the ability to make changes from time to time to these acts, that is through our elected representatives and the like. That's why we send them there to represent us and trust that they're only making changes that will be in the best interest of the residents of the state of Michigan. So any comments, any further comments about that?
I just wonder what the major changes were, and maybe Sergeant Tamiga would be able to tell us. Not to put you on the spot, but no idea. Okay.
Yeah, it changes so much that the really only way to look at it, look at the latest version and see if anything there you don't like. And I can send you, there's a state government has a web page where you can look at both, and then it has a chart that actually shows you the changes and compares from, because the rule numbers change as well. So it would be almost impossible to look at because, again, it's not changed in whole. Parts of it are changed all the time. So if you want, you can look at the latest version, read through the hundreds of rules from both codes. But again, we adopt it by reference, which means we adopt it as a whole. So you can really only look at the latest document for what it is there, because again, it changes in minutia at times, and it changes larger. So
we adopt these so that our deputies can enforce the codes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. This is, I just want to make sure this isn't a roll call, right? No. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is passed. Item number 12, which would be a roll call vote. Here it's an proposed ordinance to change from rural residential to low density residential, a parcel of land commonly known as 4261 Berry Street. It isn't bending one way or the other, quite honestly, if you've read the staff report and otherwise. So the motion could go either way. Anyone wish to place a motion for the board? If not, I may on this one.
The motion is to deny to rezone from rural residential to LDR.
I'm going to support that motion. Yep. It's not too often that these come. Typically, you can almost get in the habit of going, oh, it's going to be a motion to approve, right? It's going to be an approved situation. But for the reasons given in the staff report, actually it was a situation where they didn't find that the various criteria would be met, at least at this point in time. I trust you read through that and saw the rationale behind it. Any comments now that that motion to deny is on the floor?
So
whichever way you might feel, go ahead.
I would like to give you a little background, because actually the reason it denied was even more than the staff report.
Okay.
So here's the scenario. And this is the reason why I moved to deny the LDR. If we had rezoned that to LDR, then technically we'd have to rezone all the properties back to 40th Avenue to LDR also. And they're all rural residential. All right? So once you rezone a piece of property to LDR, it's zoned that way forever. That zoning goes even with the sale of that property. So suppose this individual sold this property after the meeting to a developer. And the developer says, oh, it's zone LDR. I'm going to put a plat in this piece of property. I'm going to put a street in here. All right? LDR in our ordinance, township ordinance, not the zoning ordinance, the township says you got to have water and sewer. So now the developer says, fine, I can get water and sewer from 40th Avenue, and I'll run that water and sewer all the way down Berry to 40th Avenue. What's our township ordinance say about LDR and sewer and water? Well, if you're an LDR and you have water and sewer in front of your house, you have to hook up. That's what the previous board decided, right? So a guy that has a piece of property a quarter of a mile away from the sewer on 40th could run water and sewer from that LDR that's just been rezoned to 40th and make all those property owners pay for that water and sewer because past boards have allowed developers to run water and sewer down a street, and for the first 10 years, those property owners have to pay him back for the water and sewer that runs in front of their house. So you could because of, in this piece of property probably isn't big enough to make it happen, but the precedent that it would set for the entire township would make it a disaster because it's possible. So the planning commission came back with a recommendation that we deny the LDR and look at continuing with rural residential. Now there's two things that make a rural residential: square footage of the property and frontage on the road. So he meets the square footage of the property for all three splits, but he does not meet the frontage of the road. This is why he wanted to go to LDR. It's 165 feet. So the planning commission has told him to reapply, and we will look at a variance to change the frontage on the road. He would still get his RR because of the square footage of the property, but would lock him into only having 3 parcels. He could have had 2 parcels with what he has now and have 200 feet, but now he wants an extra split, which would just give him 1 more residence on the road. So the residents that want the traffic, they want the water and sewer. This would be a compromise for the residents to just get 1 more parcel. It will lock him in to only keeping 3 parcels and not have a problem of that LDR creating a situation where we would have a lot of problems down the road if that ends up being water and sewer. Mm-hmm. So that's beyond even the staff report, but that's the way we work through that in the planning commission meeting.
I have so much respect for the way that was handled. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we have a precedent for granting variances for less than 200?
I don't know.
That
was another question. We wanted to do it that night. We said no. You have to reapply, and then we're going to have to work through the planning commission and our zoning administrator and see if that's a possibility. But I think the planning commission is possibly open to looking at that, but I don't know. We're going to have to. But that's the reason why I got denied the LDR. We're on to the next thing now.
Yeah.
So
this could be denied without regard to any sort of promises as it relates to a variance. The variance stands on its own or falls on its own.
Correct.
A decision that can be made here for its own independent reasons.
Exactly. Because we made no promises.
Yeah. Gary?
Yeah.
Is it, rather than a variance, weren't you talking about a change in the text of?
It's a possibility we could do a text. We could do a text change too. That's a possibility. We talked about a text change too, which, I'm gonna let the staff work through that because we were working through a lot. We had a lot of things going on that night.
By text change, you mean maybe changing the road frontage number? Or
the road frontage, change the text on road frontage and just go with the square footage.
Meaning that would apply township wide in that instance.
Yeah, because these parcels are 2.6 acres or something, so they're plenty big to make rural residential. And one of the reasons why the text could be changed is we look at all the surrounding townships, and that's where they're at too. We would actually become lining up more with other townships in our area with what they're doing for frontage. So I don't.
What's the current? Isn't it a 1-to-4 lot ratio?
Somebody did say something about 1-to-4. I don't.
That's why it might be in conflict with 1-to-4.
I don't know.
And I think that's why they work together, total square footage and frontage of 200 foot.
So I don't.
And you said it will change all the neighbors to LDR too, if he gets.
Well, it kind of sets you should because you can't have LDR over here on just one little parcel in your street, and everything going back would be
spot zoning, which
exactly.
You can't spot zone.
And so now, and because the master plan does show there's LDR in the future, it basically would automatically almost trigger it being LDR, and that's what we didn't want. Because right now, people are happy to have rural residential. So there was just too many things that could go wrong. That's, but.
Look, but were you saying that it has to be 1 to 4 as far as like frontage compared to depth?
Yeah. So they don't want any odd-shaped lots like flag lots, which is the small narrow that gets wide in the back
It would actually qualify under that.
with the depth.
It's 165, so you do 165 times 4, that'd be 660, and the depth is 624, 629. So it would be underneath the 1 to 4.
So I'll let the staff deal with that. I just wanted to give you some information on what was going on with that.
Thank you.
That was helpful.
Any other comments? I mean, whether you agree or disagree, the motion right now is to deny. All right, hearing no one else. I don't know if I need to take a roll call vote. I don't think we sound split either. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that is passed. All right. Item number 13, second public comment period. This is the portion of time now where those of you who are here observing can come forward and address the board. We're glad to hear from you. You've got 3 minutes. Just identify your name and what street you live on and tell us what's on your mind. We know what's on your mind.
Yeah. Ed Polkowski, 8652 Astro Drive. Been in the township for 47 years. And I started this with complaints about 8611 Beretta Court. I'm just reminding you of that. My issue is the name, address, phone number, and email on the complaint form, which identified me in the courtroom. And the person that I complained about, the violator, who was fined $100 that day, showed up in my driveway. So I don't think giving out the identity is the right way to go. I think you should have a code enforcement officer who actually goes out and enforces things. You just talked about the Michigan Code recently, and that's to employ the Sheriff's Department to go out and enforce the code. But here you have a code that you're relying on the residents to turn something in, provide all their information, and then your code enforcement officer will go out there. Now, I want to back up a little bit. I got something to read, so I might not have enough time tonight. Grand Rapids Code Enforcement has a lot for you guys to read. I'll give you the quick things here. We maintain these standards and make sure they're followed. Grass or weeds taller than 12 inches, trash in yard. You're in the right place to report this. You can do it online. We use a third-party application process. You can submit a complaint anonymously without logging in, or you can create an account and log in first to make it easier to track the status. So this started with me, with the women that work in the office. There's some guys in there now. I get the form years ago. We're probably talking 8 to 10 years ago. I don't know. I progressed through that for a long time. I eventually ran into Dick Kennedy in the hallway. 8 times I wrote it up. I run into Dick. The 9th time I'm in, said, Dick, what are you going to do? He says, what do you want me to do? I said, well, 8 complaints to you. You haven't done anything. Why don't you send a trash truck over there, clean up the mess, and send the homeowner the bill? So, some time goes by, maybe a week or two. I go back in, run into Dick again. Dick, what'd you do? Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm probably going to end up having to take him to court. So that's what ultimately happened. A couple more months goes by, and he takes him to court. So now, that guy moves out. We get another guy in there. Or not. I don't know if he's living there or not, really. So that, the same kind of behavior goes on. You get people in that don't have pride. I moved to this community all those years ago because I was in Wyoming. I was sick of looking at the different kinds of blight that were turning up on just about every street. I mean, if you have 10 or 15 or 20 houses on a street, you might likely get one that's not very good. But you come out to Georgetown Township, which was Jenison at that time. It's a beautiful place. Guys at work would say, oh, you moved out where all the grasses are green, everybody's got flowers in their yard. Yeah. You know why? Because I like it that way. And I want it to stay that way. Now, I have gone through everybody. That's my 3 minutes? Geez, I'm only halfway.
I'd like to talk, I got a thought for you too as well, if you'd like to connect after the meeting. Yep. All right.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? allocated you their time? No. No, I know 3 minutes seems like it goes by quick. I will say that we're certainly on par with other municipalities in that respect. But we also are available, not just in these formal settings. So thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, we're going to close that second public comment period. Item number 14, discussion and general information. Anything the board wishes to bring up with one another? Just something you think we should know, or
did anybody else get the newsletter from Ottawa County?
Mm-hmm.
Did you read through all the money that was spent from the ARPA funds and all the social justice garbage and nothing in it for infrastructure? $47 million. Nothing on this side of the township when we're 1/6 of the population. We've had no seat at the table. I was so frustrated when I read that thing. I was still mad the next day. It's unbelievable to me. I mean, to be honest with you, the first meeting of Ottawa County Board, I was happy with the results. I have a little problem with the process. I think the process, they should do a little better job of that, but so be it. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I just can't believe everything went to the other side of the county. We're the biggest taxpayers. Yeah, you got it, John. Yeah, there you go. And I thought it was sad to think that we had no representation, and yet we are who we are on the other side of the county. We've been left out.
We tried.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not for lack of them knowing we wish that. And by the way, I'll make mention sort of in line with that. John recently put his name out there for Road Commission, made it to the final interview process, and just missed out. It was edged out, and it was another attempt on our part to get connection with this side of the county, right? But so we got to keep trying. We got to keep trying. I said before, it's almost the penalty that you receive for being run well enough that you're you're obscured.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And you're taken for granted. And I think in terms of the ARPA funds, I was equally, distressed. I think that was a little bit of a parting shot out the door. We got to quick hit this money out the door before the new end. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I could share emails I've had with John Shea, and it was ridiculous. I mean, he was basically telling me we're going to do everything to get rid of this money before we leave because they knew they were voted out. It was a lame duck session and the way they went. And it's just so frustrating. I did send an email out to the entire Board of Commissioners, identified who I saw for the trustee. I did get one response from Alex and Yuma that they were going to work on seeing if some of that money could be rescinded. But that doesn't mean that it's going to help us in the township. But it's still sad.
Yeah. Moving forward, things will be different.
What's that?
I said, moving forward, things will be different.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that they squandered that money, but I guess they've created a legacy for themselves. The old commissioners, which is pretty sad. I wouldn't want to be a part of that.
Oh, well, two of the members on the ARPA committee were from the Muskegon Community College. Yeah. We acceded from Muskegon County in 1859. We have nothing to do with that county anymore. We're Ottawa County. That's, it's stupid.
Yeah, I think we may have different perspectives in terms of what they allocated to. That is, I don't think that everything they allocated to shouldn't have received some level of support. That maybe 2 or 3 of those things I might say, all right, I can see X or Y, but to exclude our county and then to, as you say, omit brick and mortar and some of those other things that seem a little more obvious, a little more tangible, a little more urgent, I think we can all be shared disappointment in that respect. I mean, we aren't participating, we aren't being included. So, on a lighter note, anyone have anything? I'm
sorry to be a downer, Jim. I'm sorry.
I support Gary, and it just seems that we should have better representation on some of these committees for Georgetown Township, and for the amount of money we spend on our roads, in addition to what our people are taxed on, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating. I think Gary worded it very well, so I support you.
You want to go to the meeting tomorrow night with me, John?
I can't, but thank you for asking. Through talk with me.
Any other topics? All right.
We do have a new motto for Ottawa County, where freedom rings, which is awesome.
See that? I did see that. What was it before? I'm sorry, I forget.
Where we
Stuff and
belong.
belongings. Where you belong.
Okay. Thought it was something.
Apparently we didn't belong.
No, you do not belong. The freedom's gonna ring.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.